Hello and welcome to iGCSE Success. And if you're new here, a big hello to you. I'm an English teacher and I post content here on YouTube to prepare students for their Cambridge First Language English exam. And if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to check out the videos on my channel because I break down a number of the core skills needed to succeed with First Language English. So today's video is another Learn With Me. Yes. I got some really good feedback on my last two videos and I just think presenting my screen, presenting these presentations which I created for my Year 10 and Year 11 classes, they are far easier to follow than me just simply talking to the camera for 15 minutes or so. So this video will conclude, I promise, will conclude I guess the writer's effect questions on my channel for a while. I mean, if you are still struggling with the writer's effect question after today's video, do check out the videos on my channel. There are plenty, and I mean plenty. And after today's lesson, I will be very much focusing on the directed writing question to paper one and just providing you with content which will improve your non-fiction writing skills in a more sort of general sense. So without further ado, let's get on with today's Learn With Me lesson. Hi guys, so let's start today's lesson. I'm going to try and keep it within the sort of 15-minute time frame. 10 minutes would be ideal, but let's see how things go. I'm not going to go through the first screen because I broke down the course last lesson, so let's just get straight to it. So we are going to be reading two short extracts today, and they come from a longer piece of fiction called Thirst. I think this was a paper from 2019. I could be wrong. I have done a video, quite a comprehensive video on this paper before, so do check that out if that sounds interesting to you. However, for the purpose of this video, it's very much to look at how to organize a response to the writer's effect question. I'm going to give you a bit of context so you know what the extracts are about. And it's important to note that if you have been watching my videos on the writer's effect question, I have changed the writing frame, if you like, that I advise my students to use ever so slightly, as these lessons are for my Year 10s and embedding quotations is quite difficult for them. So I've kind of simplified the process and I've added a little bit extra in terms of using evaluative adjectives. So let's read a bit of the context. So a blockade stopping ships from entering the port has caused shortages of supplies on an island. Water rationing is in place. Taps have been turned off and islanders have to make do with just 1 litre of drinking water a day for the months until the autumn rain. So quite clearly we are dealing with a place where water is scarce, and we can only assume that people and the city are going to be struggling. So as I read the first extract, just be thinking about what the writer is wanting to achieve through their language. Let's read it. Days later, Marchand, I think that's how you pronounce it, Marchand and I decided that we should pool our reserve petrol and take my motorbike inland to the city. From the road descending the hills, everything still looked normal. Donkeys pulling their wagons, bicycles, admittedly fewer cars than before. It was only as we came closer that we noticed differences. The city was quieter than usual, torpid, as if its unlubricated gears and belts had seized up. People seemed to be crumbling, turning to dust and salt. A ghostly, powdery rabble, a strong wind could scatter them into clouds of dead skin. Desiccated, dehydrated adults were too tired to toil or trade. Children too sluggish to learn. Now, do expect there to be some perhaps unfamiliar vocabulary. However, it is quite important that you don't simply skim over these words, because actually the words that are perhaps unfamiliar to you convey quite significant meaning. So you've got that adjective torpid, which can mean lethargic or slow or inactive. You've got that adjective desiccated, which means completely dried out, no moisture at all. And of course, you've got that noun rabble, which usually denotes some sort of disorderly crowd. However, it is important to note that if you come across unfamiliar words, please do not simply take a guess or analyze images which you are unsure of the vocabulary used within that image. Okay, usually there's quite a few powerful images or powerful phrases which you can use, so choose images, choose phrases where you know the meaning of all of the words which the writer chooses to use. So of course, once you've read the extract, you need to think carefully about what the writer is trying to achieve, or what is the overall effect of the language. In other words, what is the writer wanting us to think about the city and its people? Pause the video now and have a think. Now, hopefully you can see that due to the lack of water, people are desperately struggling. Their health is deteriorating, and the city is just not functioning the way it more than likely was before the rationing of water. So I always advise my students to simply write the overall effect, a nice concise sentence at the top of their page. And I would put something along the lines of, the overall effect of the language makes the city and the people seem like they are struggling due to a lack of water. That shows Cambridge that you understand what the writer is trying to use through their imagery, through their word choices, through their language. And we have come to that conclusion through the language. Now the next step is to, of course, select our images. So read the extract again and select at least 3 powerful words or images which link to the overall effect of the language. Pause the video now. And these are just some of the images you may have been able to identify. So of course we've got that image or that metaphor of the unlubricated gears and the belt seizing up, the fact that people seem to be crumbling, the fact that people are referred to as being a ghostly powdery rabble, that they are also described as being desiccated, dehydrated adults. So once you have identified your images, the next step, of course, is to analyze. And this is where you guys need to grab your pen and paper and have a go at analysing the images that I have on the next slide. Okay, so these are the images that I would personally analyse. You don't need to draw the table, but you may wish to quickly write down the quotations, do 3 subheadings, and then analyse these quotations underneath. Remember, we are looking for 2 analytical comments for each image. So let's have a look at the first one. I have done that for you. Its unlubricated gears had seized up. So I've just referred to it as imagery. It's up to you what you refer to it as, but the writer's use of imagery here suggests that the city is no longer functioning. It's clearly struggling and has completely dried up. So of course you'd get your mark for the fact that the city is no longer functioning, it's struggling, and the fact that it has completely dried up. Now I want you to have a go at analysing that metaphor, a ghostly powdery rabble, and I also want you to have a go at analysing those adjectives, desiccated, dehydrated. Remember, we want to show Cambridge that yes, we can explore imagery, but we can also zoom into particular word classes. Pause the video now and have a go at analysing those images. So hopefully your analysis looks something like this. A ghostly powdery rabble. The writer's use of the metaphor here highlights how people seem barely alive. So you get your mark there. Can't speak tonight. They are dehydrated and in poor health. So of course you get another mark there. Then we've got the quote, desiccated, dehydrated adults. The adjectives here show how everyone is in desperate need of water. They have been stripped of any energy and are lifeless. Now let's take a look at how to get all of our ideas and put them into a well-organized, succinct reading response. 5 steps as usual, but I have changed it ever so slightly. Again, for my year 10s who struggle embedding quotations. Okay, you are not going to lose marks if you cannot embed quotations, so please do not worry. However, it is good practice, and Cambridge are particularly impressed with students who can use textual evidence in a kind of seamless way. Step 1, of course, establish the overall effect. So your paragraph will always start with that sentence starter. And remember, you will have some sort of abstract noun or adjective within that sentence starter. Step 2, use your first transition phrase. Quite simply, with my year 10s, I am going to use the writer's first image is. The writer's first image is. So we are not embedding quotations. However, if you can do that, that's excellent. Step 3 is include your first quotation. Short quotation, guys, 2 to 3 words is absolutely fine. Slightly longer if the whole image is particularly powerful. Step 4, of course, is a zoom in technique. And this is something which I've added recently. Use some sort of evaluative adjective to show that you are evaluating how successful a particular image is. So quite simply, we are going to use the writer's use of the technique, so the writer's use of the metaphor, simile, personification, onomatopoeia, etc., or the writer's use of the adjective, verb, noun, etc. And then we are going to follow that by an evaluative adjective such as effective, powerful, striking, successful, because it, and then we are going to, of course, analyze. Step 5 is where you are going to get your marks, really. And that's where you use your analytical verbs such as suggests, highlights, shows, conveys, emphasizes. And then we just need to repeat steps 2 to 5. But of course, we do not use that transition phrase, the writer's first image. We are simply going to use the writer's second image is and the writer's third image is. So this structure, again, particularly useful if perhaps your responses get a little bit muddled sometimes. So things to note before I read the model response out. The phrases in bold should not change. Use these phrases to help you organize your ideas. Try and zoom into different things. The writer's use of imagery, the writer's use of the word, the adjective, the metaphor, etc. If you are not sure of a particular technique, it's always best to go with imagery. Likewise, if you are not sure if something is an adverb or an adjective, just make reference to the word. Let's look at the model. The overall effect of the language makes the city and the people seem like they are struggling due to a lack of water. The writer's first image is its unlubricated gears had seized up. The writer's use of imagery here is effective as it suggests that the city is no longer functioning, like a dried up engine that hasn't been oiled. It's clearly at a standstill and is barely surviving. The writer's second image is a ghostly, powdery rabble. The writer's use of the metaphor here is striking as it highlights how people seem to be close to death. They are dehydrated and their health is deteriorating. The writer's third image is desiccated, dehydrated adults. The writer's use of adjectives are powerful as they show how everyone is in desperate need of water. They have been stripped of any energy and seem virtually lifeless. There you go, guys. A really simple writing frame, 5 steps to success, which I really encourage you to follow. Aim for 150 words per paragraph. Ideally, you want to be writing 300 words in total. From my experience, having taught this question many years, students do tend to go over. That is absolutely fine, but just bear in mind you have 2 hours to do the whole exam, and there are extra questions. So there's a lot of content to cover. I hope today's video has been useful. Do let me know if you like this style of video, and I will be back very soon. And that's all for today, guys. As always, if you found this video useful, do leave me some feedback in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you again very soon. Until next time, bye-bye.